What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. And I'm coming through with another video just for you. This is another top 10 MC session. And for today's session, we're going to focus on my number six favorite MC of all time, that being one of the esteemed members of the legendary Wu-Tang Clan, that being Method Man, aka Johnny Blaze, aka Clifford Smith, aka Tecalion Stallion. Y'all know him. Y'all know Mr. Meth. Move in on your left. Before we get into this extended look at Method Man's discography, from the Tecal album all the way to the 421 the day after album, let me talk about my brief history, if you will, with Mr. Meth. So, like most people listening to this, the first time that I heard Method Man was on, the Into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers album, Shame on the N-Word. That's when I first heard Meth. I didn't hear him prior to that. So that's when I first heard Meth. And from there, as as my fandom of the Wu continued to grow so much that my fandom of the Meth Man grew as well, to a point where I really like this flow. Of course, he came with the lyrics. Anytime he was on a RZA track, he always came through. And it was on one song where he said that on RZA tracks he don't know how to act. And that was on Shadow Boxing. Shout out to the Jizzle. So that was always the case. But always like this flow. He had swag back before swag was a thing. Just had this confidence on the mic, and you can just tell. You could just tell he was smooth with it, but at the same time still rugged as well. So Method Man had that. And when you go back and listen to the Method Man song from the 36 Chambers album, you can tell that as far as the breakout start of the clan, it was going to be him. It was either going to be him or it was going to be ODB. Rest in peace to the man ODB. So yeah, so definitely those are some of my first memories of Method Man as to when I first heard him and what made me become a fan. And of course, I got a couple other stories. So um going to late 1994, going into 95, I was in the fifth grade at this time, and there was a little Method Man fever that was running through me at the moment. Now keep in mind I was 10 years old at this point. So um I also had a shirt that my mom bought for me. Now, for those of you all, who came up in the 90s, specifically, and you came up in Virginia, Petersburg or whatever, there was a time where um there were shirts that had rappers, on them and stuff like that. Now to this day, I don't know when my mom got those shirts from, and I don't know where anybody else got those shirts from, but they were hot items at the time, and I still remember the Method Man shirt that I had, and I want to say that he had like a skull cap on, and he had his hand on the skull cap, and he also had on a Saint Ass t-shirt too. I remember that shirt, and I've been looking all over the internet to try to locate it. I may do it after this video, but to date, I still haven't found that shirt. But I had it for the longest time until I just couldn't wear it anymore. But I do remember my mom buying that for me, and I held on to it. So got that part. So then continuing on with the fifth grade, there was also a friend of mine at the time. Now, if he's listening to this, he may or may not remember, but he had to Bring the Pain single, and it was on a cassette. So me being me, I was like, can I borrow that? Now he already knew how I was about hip hop, even at that age, but he made sure to tell me, I'll let you use my tape, but you bring it back tomorrow. And I did. But of course, when I got home, I played it for a little bit. Now, I didn't play it so much that it ended up popping or anything, but I listened to it, had a good time with it, and I brought it back to him the next day. So yeah, I had a little Method Man fever going on in me. And also, I really wanted that Tecal album so bad, at this point, but I didn't end up getting it until like years later. And I'm talking about the CD. I actually can't recall the first time that I bought it, but um, over the years I bought it twice because um, the last time I got it, well, no, hold on. I want to say that, let me see. And by the way, I own all these albums on CD. The first time I had it, I had a dub version of the tape. And a cousin of mine, who's no longer with us, he gave me that tape, And even though it was, a dub tape, I held on to that thing for a good little while before I started collecting CDs. Now, the first time I got the CD, I think me and my cousin did a trade or something, or one of my cousins did a trade. I can't recall exactly how I got it the first time, and then again, why would my cousin trade me a Method Man CD unless he didn't like it for some reason? But it probably was that. But I held on to that for a while, and then several years ago, I can't recall the specific year, I ordered another one from, I think I got it on Amazon, and it was brand new. And I had that one for a while, but I remember I was doing something and the CD hit the ground. And of course, me being trying to be extra careful picking it up, it was already damaged when it hit that ground. And so much so that it was scratches on the back. And y'all know, I can't stand scratches on the back of the CDs, because depending on where they hit and how big those scratches are and how intense, for the lack of a better word, that they are, that could affect the playback. And just looking at how the back of that CD was, it was nowhere in the world it was going to be an effective listen, if you will. So I threw it away, went on Amazon the same day, ordered another one, and that's the version that I have to this day. So okay. So we got that part. The only other story that I think I have is that, okay, now there was a girl I used to go with back in the day. This was between August 2000 and February 2001. And if she's listening, she know who I'm talking about. But Method Man was actually her favorite rapper at the time. She was crazy about Meth more than I was. She used to listen to the Tical 2000 album. She would listen to it more than I did. But to this day, I don't even think she ever heard that first album because she remembers that second album so much. And what ended up happening is that at a cookout a couple of years ago, I remember telling her that, you want to know something interesting? Remember back in the day when we was, going together and how crazy you was about Method Man? And she was like, yeah, I remember. And I said, well, I ended up putting him in my top 10, years after the fact. And all she could do is laugh. She was like, but he's old now. And I was like, girl, he ain't old. He getting better. He an OG now, just like the majority of the Wu-Tang members are. Yeah, I think the majority of them, if not all of them, are in their 50s now. So, they OGs now. They're not old. They just better at what they do. In this case, Meth, Raekwon, Ghostface, Jizza, Inspector Deck, even Master Killer, all of them, they still doing their things. They just up in age now, and that's cool, So yeah. So I just wanted to mention those few stories before we get started. So with all that being said, y'all, let me go ahead and get some things done. I should have did this at first. So let me go ahead and get my little file up here. And as I'm bringing this up, I just want to say that, if you're not aware, then I'm taking all of my album reviews and I'm taking them off of my medium.com page. And my medium.com page is www.medium.com/@WDM625. That has all of my reviews from my old hip hop blog. I went at, I still had the quote unquote master reviews, edited and not. And thankfully, I still had access to them because my prior blog, somebody else had took over the domain. I didn't keep it, or should I say, I didn't renew it at the time because I had to renew it for a year, but it fell through. So somebody else took a hold of it. But since I was doing it through Blogger, which is basically an extension of what Gmail and Google and stuff like that, I was able to keep my master work. So thankfully, all that time and effort that I put into my old blog, it didn't go anywhere, so I had access to it. Basically took some time out to edit some stuff and add some words, take some words out, put in some YouTube links, fair usage as well. So I was able to do that. So again, that page is www.medium.com/@WDM625. I may put those links in the description box, but I just wanted to make that clear again before we get started. So, all right. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the career of Method Man in terms of his solo work. And also one more caveat. The Blackout albums, number 1 and number 2, that he did with Redman, who was also in my top 10, I'm going to do those in a separate video. And as a matter of fact, after I redo my top 10 MC session focusing on Coogee Rap, I'm going to do that probably sometime after that. I just didn't want to include that in the Method Man video. I didn't want to include it in the Redman video either. So like I said, I'm going to do those as a separate video. All right. So now that we got that all out the way in terms of an introduction, let me go ahead and get my screen shared, and we're going to proceed right on to this career. All right. So give me a second. All right. So here we go right here. Now this picture right here, this is one of my favorite pictures of Meth. This is from the Source magazine, the 1995 year in review issue. So, 29 years after the fact, well, almost 29 years after the fact. But yeah, this has always been one of my favorite pictures of him. So what better way to represent this than to have one of these classic photos up here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And of course, we're going to start with the 1994 debut, Tical. This was released on November 15th, 1994. And that turns 30 that turns 30 this year, y'all. So got an anniversary coming up. Now, I wonder if Method Man is going to tour for the 30th anniversary of Tical. I will hope he does. But yeah, this turns 30, if you can believe that. So we're going to go ahead and continue on here. So the album was produced entirely by the RZA, with 2 tracks having Meth and Fourth Disciple as co-producers. All right. And I don't recall if the Source ever reviewed this, because they had a thing where they had to get the albums 2 months before they came out, and if they didn't get it in that time frame, then they wouldn't be able to review it. So I'm not sure if they did, and if they did, they probably would have gave it 4 mics, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right. So we start with the highlights, and again, for those of you who are watching one of my top 10 MC sessions for the first time, not sure why it would be your first time, but okay, I do highlights and I do low points. So the highlights, pretty much, it is what it says in the name, highlights of the albums. I also get my thoughts on the songs as well as my rating for them. The low points is basically things that were not that good, disappointing, or they could have been left on the showroom floor or the cutting room floor, whatever the case may be. So it's a difference. You got highlights and you got lowlights. Now, if your album has more lowlights than highlights, that's a problem. And unfortunately, that's going to be the case with one of Method Man's albums here. We're definitely going to take a look at that as we move forward. So, all right. Now, we got the first highlight. This will be Tical, the album's opening title track. I said it start things off right as Meth acts on the hook. What's that shit that they be smoking? Tical, Tical. Pass it over here, man. Y'all know what I'm talking about. RZA's beat is off the hook. Hold up. That's a little too far from now. I said RZA's beat is off the hook while Meth delivers his normal flow to good results, and I gave that a 4 out of 5. Now, I also noted here that this is the first of 3 songs on the album I'm going to touch on in reference to an interview with Meth. Now, this was from a 1998 interview he did with Vibe magazine, and I'm pretty sure that my memory does serve me correctly, because this was probably a few months before Tical 2000 came out, so, okay. So otherwise, it would have been after that. But I think this is the right time. But it was 98. He talked about the Tical album, and he stated that he felt he came weak on certain songs. And this Tical song was one of them. Now, like I note here, I respectively disagreed then, and I do so today, even in present day 2021. Now, also, most of these reviews, they were done between May 2012 and I want to say sometime in 2017, like the latter part of 2017. So a large portion of my thoughts remain the same, and even when I go back and look at what I wrote, as well as what I share on these posts, most of my thoughts remain the same. It's very rare that I go back and say, well, I thought this was a 4 out of 5 song at one point, but now it's not that, you know. And it's very rare for me to take a song that I gave a 5 out of 5 and drop the rating to a 4.5 or a 4 or anything lower for that matter. So more often than not, my thoughts still remain the same, even though, you know, some things I haven't listened to in a while and stuff like that. But my thoughts largely remain the same, and I think that's what we're going to see here in this session. So, like I said, I don't think he came weak on his song. Like I said, he delivered his flow, which was normal, to good results. I didn't have a problem with it then. I don't have a problem with it today. And as I know here, his flow and lyrics, they matched the beat that RZA provided. He didn't sound weak to me on this one. He sure did. Right. So next up, we go to the next highlight, Biscuits. Now, longtime listeners remember this one with the opening lines. Yo, mama, and I don't even have to look at the screen for this. Yo, mama don't wear no drawers. I saw him when she took them off. Standing on the welfare line, eat swine, trying to look fine with a stank behind. Y'all remember that? And all I could do was laugh then and laugh now. And I remember one time, and I believe this was either in the 5th grade or 6th grade, maybe even the 7th grade. I was singing that song to myself, and here come, you know, one of my classmates talking about some, that's your mama, Wayne. I'm like, dude, get out of here. But anyway, you know, I ain't even take it seriously. You know, dude was probably joking, but even then, we came up with a time where, you know, you can get into some fights talking about somebody's mama. But anyway, so moving on, I said that we have the usual rhymes from Meth. Almost sounds like he's high on the track. And again, RZA's beat knocks. Play this joint in your ride with the volume up if you have a nice system. And as I also note here, this is the second song Meth mentioned in the interview that he felt he came weak on. Listening to it again, I wouldn't say he came weak. While his flow and lyrics again matched the low-key bass-driven beat, he could have been a little more energetic here. Either way, my sentiments on the song are still the same. Yeah, he wasn't weak, you know. The only slight criticism is that, yeah, he could have been a little bit more energetic. But no, he wasn't weak by any means on this one. And we're going to get to that weak, you know, accusation of oneself as we get to another song on this album. All right. So next up, we got Bring the Pain. Yep, this is the cover of the single, you know, CD and tape. But the one that my friend had at the time in the 5th grade was the cassette, you know. And I say, true classic right here. Meth does bring the lyrical pain over one of RZA's best beats. This joint still holds up after all these years, and it may be Meth's best song ever. 5 out of 5. Yeah, definitely a classic. All right. What the Blood Clot? We get the next highlight. Another slamming track by the RZA. Meth delivers more memorable lines with no hook, and check out how awesome this song closes. Now, I am going to say this here, you know, even with the bars up here, you know, say, smoke a Dutch master, have them screaming for the Dutchess. Yeah, I got to have it. So I strive to stack my papes. If I don't do it for my death, I'm going to do it for case because that's my people. We give you injections that be lethal, weapons, when niggas start to half-step it, then I get evil. But don't let that negative vibe right there mislead you. I'm humble, a fucking killer bee, far from bumble. I sing you. And I bring you 36 chambers of headbanger, bitch. Why I deal with? I think the mic's on the fritz. Fucking Simon, they be sabotaging shit. Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, met the cow. Let the whole world know my fucking name. What the Blood Clot? Yes, indeed. And like I note here, 5 out of 5, it doesn't get any better than this. And that song, it was short, but it's dope, man. It is dope, dope, dope. All right. Next up, we got the Raekwon featured Meth vs. Chef. In the true spirit of friendly competition between two partners in rhyme, Meth and Ray do lyrical gymnastics, say it with me, over another slamming RZA track. Check the intro. And I'm not going to, well, I can say it. Let's get ready to yell, team. Live and direct from the 1-6. Ooh, we got to Cow Pow. Raekwon the Chef to Cow. It's about to go on to Cow. You make the call. I make the call. It's all for all. Method Man, Raekwon the Chef, and there's about to be one left. I know you can bring it. It's on, kid. Bring that shit on. Give a fuck. And y'all know what comes after that. So, man, I'm gonna have to throw that on right now, but I'm gonna do this video. So, I said then, I say it now. Overall, even though both MCs bring their A game to this one, I've always felt Meth was the victor. 5 out of 5 for that one. Okay, now. Next up, we get Release Your Death featuring Blue Raspberry. Another memorable one right here, both the beat and lyrics. After a nice opening from Blue Raspberry, Meth jumps right into it and kills it. This is not the classic that Bring the Pain is, but it's still damn good. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5. Excuse me, a 4.5 out of 5. Now, going back to that Vibe interview, I'm going to have to track that down too. This is the third song that Meth mentioned that he came weak on. I never saw that. I don't think he was weak. He was way energetic on this one than to Kyle and Biscuits, I'll tell you that. But no, he wasn't weak on this one. And it's one of his memorable songs here from this period. So I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he was being a little bit too hard on himself when talking about his previous works. But no, I didn't see anything about him being weak on here. So we continue on. We got the next highlight, PLO style featuring Carlton Fisk. Shout out to Carlton Fisk too. He had some good chemistry with Method Man back in the day. He had some good chemistry with Raekwon too, because longtime fans remember. If y'all remember DJ Doo-Wop from the Bronx, his taste back in the day. I believe it was 95 Live Part 2. Raekwon had a freestyle. Him and Carlton Fisk, they was freestyling over the who was it? Trends of Culture instrumental. What was the name of that song? Man. I can't think of the song off the top of my head, but if you bring up Trends of Culture, y'all know what song I'm talking. Yeah, Off and On. Yeah, that's the name of it. Off and On. Here it is, baby Paul. They was freestyling to that beat, and it was dope too. But getting back to this song, I said that Mr. Fisk was solid when paired up with Meth, and this track was no different. It was a bit slower, but still on the fast-paced side than the preceding songs, and it doesn't interrupt the flow of the album. 4.5 out of 5. I probably would have gave it a 5 had it been a little bit longer, but as it stands, it's a 4.5 out of 5. It's a dope song. Next highlight, I Get My Thing in Action. Niggas want to test my steez, nigga, please. I black that ass like peas. You better freeze. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I said Meth nicely picks up the pace on this track, and this is another good one. Listen to him as he gets his thing in action. I gave that one 4 out of 5. The next highlight here features RZA, Inspector Deck, Street Life, Carlton Fisk, and Blue Raspberry, Mr. Sandman. Carlton Fisk closed the song on a decent note, but make no mistake about it, Meth, RZA Deck, and Street Life owns this joint. Must be heard to be appreciated. 5 out of 5. Now, who do I think had the best verse in this song? I probably would have to give it to Inspector Deck, but Street Life, his verse was dope too, But man, Inspector Deck said, "Pound poetry pushed past the point of no return, leaving mics with third-degree burns." And he also came where he said, "I strike like a bowling ball, holding y'all hostage like jail, electrifying like the third rail." I mean, Deck was killing it, man. Man, great song. I love this one. It may be, but no, it's not the. Well, most people would say Bring the Pain is the best song on the album, but you can either say that or you can say Mr. Sandman. Either one of them would do. And next up, possibly my third or fourth favorite song on the album, Stimulation. Very good song. I always like this one. It kind of takes me back to a moment in time when I used to play that song a lot, and I still feel it today. So 4 out of 5 for that one. So now, my overall thoughts on this one, I said is Method Man's best album for sure, a solid debut, and time has been kind to this album. I give it 4.5 stars, even though it is recognized as a classic. It's a great album. Definitely, like I said, a solid debut. Now, if you notice, as far as highlights, I did not include All I Need and the Method Man remix. Let me explain. So starting with the former, All I Need, the version on this album, it was good, but that was, that version was more hardcore. Now keep in mind that song was supposed to be for the ladies. Now I get what they was going for. It's still a dope song, but the remix with Mary J. Blige, that's the version that everybody remembers right there. That Razor Sharp remix, that's a classic right there. Not to take away from the one that's on this album, and also Street Life, he wasn't credited on there, but he's actually on that song. But it's good, but the remix is better. Definitely one of those remixes that's better than the original. So now, had that version been on the album, oh yeah, that definitely would have been a highlight. But I didn't want to include that. And then the Method Man remix, it's dope, but compared to the original, it falls a little bit short, you know. So I didn't include that as a highlight either, you know. So I just wanted y'all to, you know, take note of that as you know, if we start to ask, you know, well, where's All I Need? Where's the Method Man remix? So I just explained that. All right. So I'm gonna step away for a second before we continue on with Takai 2000 Judgment Day. I'll be right back, y'all. All right, so I'm back, y'all. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to continue on with the top 10 MC session, focusing on my number six favorite MC of all time. That would be Method Man from the Wu-Tang Clan. All right, y'all. So this album right here, his second. This one came out on November 17th, 1998. This would be 2 days after the 1998 Survivor Series, where The Rock won the WWF Championship for the first time in that Deadly Game tournament. But that's another story. But continuing on, y'all. So you know the anticipation was there for the second album. So how does it compare or stack up against the Tikal debut? Well, we're going to find out when we get to this album. So starting with the highlights here: Perfect World, produced by the RZA. The Children Are the Future. Wu-Tang is for the babies. Okay, so I note here that I recall similar words being spoken by the late ODB as well. I always felt this was a dope, fast-paced opener with a bass-driven track thanks to RZA and tight lyrics by Meth. After the intro we got, this was the best way to officially start the album. I gave this one 4 out of 5. The next up, we get Cradle Rock featuring the late Left Eye. Rest in peace to her. Now, take a look at who produced this. Produced by LB the Life Bringer. Now, I didn't do no additional research, but the best that I could tell, I think this may or may not have been the only beat that this guy produced, because I don't think he's done anything after that. Now, if I'm wrong, y'all let me know, but I don't recall ever seeing that name anywhere else after this album. But we'll keep it moving. So, Rockabye Baby from the rooftop. When the guns blow, your cradle gets rocked. When the earth quakes and the sky starts to fall, down with MCs, fake shit and all. No question. So I note here, God rest her soul, it was a smart move for Miss Left Eye to just contribute to the hook with Meth as well as the song's ending words. I said this because I feel a verse from her on this one would have sort of been out of place. Yeah, it would have been. Meth rides this one nicely to this day. I'm not sure who LB the Lifebringer is, but this was likely the only beat he ever produced. And like I say, if I'm wrong on that, y'all let me know in the comments. So 4 out of 5 for this song. Next up, we get another 4 out of 5 song, this being Dangerous Ground, featuring Street Life. This won't be the last time y'all hear Street Life on this album either. And I note that here. So his chemistry with Meth was often very good, and that does come across on this true master produced banger. Dangerous Ground. Yeah, that was my song, y'all. All right, so the next highlight, we got Torture, produced by True Master. Flame on our Rain Fire, When Johnny Storm, Shocking La Live Wire, I Have Been Warned. Another dope, fast-paced song. And I did note here that Meth was really feeling it on these beats. And on this one, you can tell there was a smile on his face during the hook when he was continuously saying, Torture, motherfucking torture. Y'all niggas know. So 4 out of 5 for this one. Then we get another 4 out of 5 song here, or should I say a 4 out of 5 highlight. This one being Suspect Chin music featuring Street Life, produced by the RZA. Kind of a little interesting take on Sweet Chin music, which was the name of Shawn Michaels' finisher in the WWF at the time, you know. And shout out to my favorite wrestler of all time, too. All right, so I know the very good chemistry between Meth and Street Life is still in effect on this one. You should keep your chain tucked in and should never run your mouth with a suspect chin. I lay it down. Yes, indeed. All right. So we got Spazzler, produced by Inspector Deck, featuring Inspector Deck, Killer Sin, Raekwon, Master Killer, and Street Life. At the beginning, Master Killer says Deadly Melody Part 2. Well, it does come close to that classic from the Wu-Tang Forever album. And to borrow a title from Busta Rhymes, this joint was rhymes galore over a nice piano-laced track courtesy of Deck, who was really starting to explore more with the beats at this point. And I gave this one 5 out of 5. And quite frankly, I think this may be the best song on the album. We'll continue on. So, Party Crasher, produced by True Master. You already know what to expect when the Wu enters a club. Another banger right here, 4 out of 5. Oh yeah, I got to do the intro because apparently the Wu was trying to get into a club and then you had to bounce. He was like, "Oh, okay, parental discretion is advised." I know I ain't said that already, but okay. So the bouncer was like, "Oh shit, not these niggas again." Hey yo, listen, I'm only letting 5 of you motherfuckers in here tonight. If your man ain't on the guest list, he gets to the back of the fucking line. And you want to know another motherfucking thing? I don't give a fuck if a bitch spill a drink in this motherfucker tonight. I'm kicking all y'all the fuck out of here. That's exactly what he said. Man, I always chuckle when I listen to it too. All right, so next up we get Step by Step, produced by Eric Sermon. So we get the first Def Squad appearance in here. So I said, nice little banger right here. Meth flow nicely over Eric Sermon production, as well as Redman does when he's on Eric's beats. More on this dynamic trio later. I gave this one 4 out of 5. And take a look at the punchlines. You know, he said, "Welcome to the Wheel of Fortune. Where Pat don't say Jack. Bring it to these cats often. The biggest payback. Time for some action. Check my reruns and see what's happening. Catch up with my rap slogan. Jack Frost, leave him frozen. Bless flows and never latex without my Trojan." So he was ill with the lines, yo. All right, so next up, we got Play for Keeps featuring Mobb Deep, another appearance from Inspector Deck, and another appearance from Street Life. The dopeness continues with this Wu-Tang Mobb Deep collabo. Also, towards the end, now it did seem like it was an unplanned moment because, as I note here, it seemed like Method Man was having some type of moment with his son, and then for some strange reason, that cut in, and then the song just fades out. So I don't know what that was, but it didn't ruin the song. Now, if it interfered with one of them verses, then yeah, it probably would have been a 3.5. But then again, the song is that good that it would have overcame that. But the rating wouldn't have been higher. So like I said, 4 out of 5 for this dope song. All right, next up, Killing Fields, produced by True Master. Welcome to the Killing Fields with Johnny Dangerous. Headbanger boogie niggas going through changes. And I said, to this day, I still love playing this one in the rap because True Master's beat simply knocks. And of course, Meth comes through with 3 tight verses. One of my favorites on this album, 5 out of 5 for this one. Then we got Big Dogs featuring Redman. This was produced by Eric Sermon, co-produced by Redman. What do you get when you put Meth and Red on a banging Eric Sermon track? Wu-Tang, Def Squad dopeness. This would also appear on their Blackout album in 1999. 5 out of 5 for this one. All right. Then we got the title track, Judgment Day. I don't know why that's italicized, but okay, we can forgive that. This was produced by Meth, co-produced by Fourth Disciple. Shout out to Fourth Disciple. Such an underrated producer. In the lineup of Wu producers, I think he definitely probably comes second to RZA. And then third would be True Master. Fourth would be Mathematics. And I think number 5 would be can't think of who number 5 would be. Y'all can help me out with that. All right, so I know that I guarantee that most of you have probably forgotten how dope this one is. I feel Meth experimented with his sound to great results on this title track, 4 out of 5. 10, let the countdown begin. 9, I was born through the mind. 8, took the head of a snake. 7, behold Armageddon. 6, and the love for the rich. 5, only the strong will survive. 4, must we live by the sword. 3, 160 degrees. 2, for the black and the blue. 1, for the sun. Welcome to Millennium. I may have had a, I may have been off with a couple of them words or two, but for the most part, that was in the song right there. Such a dope song. I always liked it. Okay, now for the low points, we get to the first low points, and definitely not the last on a Method Man album in this session. So, what are the low points from Tikal 2000? The first one being Retro Godfather. Note here, I always appreciate a retro sound, but I felt Meth was a little too retro in this one. When I first heard it, I didn't know what to make of it, but today I'll say it's okay, nothing more or less. And to be honest with y'all, I skipped that song. I don't really listen to it. And then next up, we get Elements. Although Meth is on this one, I feel this was more or less a showcase for Star and Polite, who both do a decent job, but this could have been left on the cutting room floor. I wonder what happened to them, because I think probably after this album, you never heard from them again, because I mean, it was other two-man teams in hip hop at the time, but they probably would have got lost in the shuffle. And even if they were Wu affiliates, they would have got even more in the lost in the shuffle, because there was so much other talent in the extended Wu family tree that they would have just been, just two other rappers, because you got to think you had Killer Army, you had GP Wu, you had Sons of Man, 12 o'clock, all them cats. So Star and Polite would have got, lost in the shuffle quickly. All right. So my overall thoughts here, I said that time has been kind to this album, and as a sequel to 1994 Tikal, this was a winner for Meth. The production was very good. Lyrically, he was still sharp and inspired. The guests contributed nicely and hyped around and propelled this one to platinum status almost a month after its release. Now, some may say that there were too many skits on the album. That is true. They even had one skit with Donald Trump, y'all. Imagine such a thing. So I said that this is true. However, in the case of this album, they don't take away at all, and most of them add to it. The 7 appearances by Street Life weren't out of place either, because being one of Meth's proteges at the time, or protege of Meth, this was a way to get his name out there in preparation for his debut. I need to revisit that too. So overall, while not a classic, this is a strong 4-star album at 28 tracks, including skits. I don't feel it's that lengthy of an album, as it flows well from beginning to end. A strong recommendation to those who haven't heard it before, and for those who own it, revisit it when you get a chance. It still holds up today. It sure does. All right. So that was album number 2. And next up, oh man, this one. Oh my goodness. Tikal O, the prequel. Now, I was really anticipating this one, because I Method Man soul out, so I knew it wasn't going to be better than Tikal. It had the potential, keyword potential, to be better than Tikal 2000, but simply put, was it better than either of those? No, not quite. So, now when I look back on this, this did come out on May 18, 2004. So when I look back on it, not only was the album long awaited, but I also remember me personally, it wasn't on my radar, and I don't even think it was on anybody else's radar either, because nobody was talking about this at the time. When I initially got it, I got it brand new, and I want to say I got it on a good deal off eBay, the CD, because like I said, I own all these on CD. So I might have paid under $10 for it, brand new, and I wanted it just for completed sakes, So there was that time when I first bought it and I listened to it. I really didn't offer an opinion on it at the time, and every piece of feedback that I ever read about this album, pretty much it went from mixed to downright hostile across the board. And also P. Diddy and Harvey Pierre, they were basically brought in to oversee the album. And Method Man, he said this about the album. He said, quote unquote, on the third LP, now that's old school right there, LP. I still say LP at times, but okay. He said on the third LP, it was suggested to bring in Harvey Pierre and P. Diddy. Who am I to argue? Puff knows how to sell some records, but that wasn't the direction to go in, and I know that now. Well, Meth, you kind of did have a say in it, Now, did P. Diddy have a strong track record at this point? Yes, but the there's a difference between Wu-Tang and Bad Boy. You know, let's just make that clear. So he did have a say, but I do get the line of thinking. You know, when you got the likes of P. Diddy overseeing your album, you know, I mean, what could go wrong, you know, in terms of promotion and stuff like that. But as we're gonna see with this album, that was not a good decision at all. And I think Method Man, even in present day 2024, will probably say the same thing. So let's continue on. So before I get to the album, I want y'all to keep those comments in mind, what Meth said about the album as well. Because, you know, when you look at the tracks and the producers, you know, it's a respectable list, you know, but sometimes that can be deceiving. And as we gonna see with this album, you know, it's gonna be deceiving just a little bit. And also, you know, the album cover is one of the most unique I've ever seen. I don't even know what to think about it now. I think that is Shaquan as a baby or something like that, but I don't know what Meth was going for with that. But you know, we're gonna get into this album, y'all. Probably one of the more extensive reviews you're gonna see on this album, because like I said, it was not on anybody's radar in 2004. So the highlights here. Okay, so we got the prequel featuring Street Life, produced by Rick Rock. Let's get that italicized status off the shelf. All right, now you can see the bars right here. The bars came, you know. Let me get my tube belt for rappers that can use help. Now that Meth is back, you can tell me how my shoes felt. Just like Shaq in them size 22s, except my game's not a game and I don't play by any rules, man. Okay. Take it from the most slept on, you wearing open-toed sandals, and I'm looking for some new toes to step on and one to build a rep on. Y'all got me fucked up. My crew stick bitches like you for acting stuck up. Okay. You can tell I ain't played this in quite some time. So I note that clocking in at 2 minutes and 7 seconds, Meth kept it brief, half short, and twice strong. Shout out to the Jizzer. He sounded energetic here, coming with several dope lines throughout. Street didn't come with the verse, but it's all good. I think he was just credited for some reason, or he was just talking on the song, but he ain't lay a verse. So this was a good start at 4 out of 5. Next up, we go to What's Happening, featuring Busta Rhymes, produced by DJ Scratchator. The album's first single, which also appeared in the Def Jam Fight for New York video game, is Damn Good, featuring dope lines from Meth and Busta verse, which finds him riding the beat in true Busta fashion. Speaking of Busta, towards the end, he says, quote unquote, logically, we should have did this shit a long time ago. And I agree with that then, and I agree with it now. Imagine Meth and Busta anytime between 94 and 99 over a RZA track. Yeah, that would have been awesome. I'm satisfied with what we got here, though. So 4 out of 5 for this one. Next up, Redman and Snoop Dogg featured We Some Dogs, produced by Denon Porter. This joint right here is aptly titled, that's for sure. Meth, Red, and Snoop all make their own cases at being dogs. Meth and Snoop's verses have a lot in common, as you'll hear. It's hilarious in a sense, but still a good song. Another 4 out of 5 for this one. Then we got After Party featuring Ghostface Killer, backed by a nice sample courtesy of the Detroit Emeralds. I just don't know about this girl. Meth and Ghost give hilarious hip-hop accounts of the day after a party they attended, starting at 10 in the morning. 4 out of 5. Okay, now, what I just read here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 highlights on this album, y'all. 4 highlights. Think about that. Now, the low points, man, we got to get to those. Okay, so the first one, Say What? Meth attempted the same thing Ghost did with Tush, which featured the latter on which was featured on the latter's Pretty Tony album that was released 1 month before this Tikal O album, even down to the Missy feature. Considering the party type vibe, it was clear to me this was aiming for mainstream acceptance. It didn't get that acceptance, but it's okay. Nothing more. Okay. The Turn. Okay, this one you can tell had Raekwon on it. Well, this was no Meth verse Chef. I can tell you that. This one could have been so much better considering the Wu elements involved. Next, low point, Tease. In short, this one is strictly for the ladies. However, it's not catchy or dope like both versions of All I Need or even Breakups to Makeups. You know, Breakups to Makeups was on the Tikal 2000 album, but in my view, it was not one of the highlights. I'm sure Meth meant no harm, but at the end of the last verse, he says, God bless the bitch that made you. Oh my goodness. All right, next low point. Rodeo, as a longtime fan of Meth and Luda, and yes, I'm gonna come back with a Luda video at some point too. My God, this was a complete missed opportunity. Instead of something incredibly tight, both men with two verses each and all going back and forth over a nice beat, we get this song talking about the obvious, catering to the ladies more than anything else. Even Luda sounds uninspired in this guest spot, you know, and that's interesting, for a variety of reasons. And another interesting thing is that in 2004, Ludacris would drop his fourth album, The Red Light District. So that's a fun fact right there. Next low point, Baby Come On. So we get a third song for the ladies. Is this a Meth album? I don't mean to be too critical, but somehow this is even worse than the previous two songs. And I'm assuming that the previous two songs I'm talking about is Rodeo and Tease. We have heard songs like this done before and better, I might add. If there's one MC who doesn't need to try this hard, it's Meth. Next low point, who you rolling with? Y'all know my flavor pack more punch than tropical. I think that's one of the most generic lines I've ever heard from Meth. The accompanying song is not much better, featuring a bad hook, probably the worst hook on any Meth song, coming off as almost a waste of the talents involved. And that would be Street Life and Shauna, formerly of Disturbing the Peace. All right, next low point, Never Hold Back. I had to chuckle a little bit as Meth shots towards Def Jam by saying, quote unquote, another Def Jam where we don't make stars, we just sign them. There was a bit of potential in an obvious Meth Socrates collabo, but it's not realized or fulfilled here. Another missed opportunity. All right, the next low point, The Show. I commend Meth for going through this one with no hook, but he did himself no favors with the lazy rhymes throughout. Judging by how it ends, I wouldn't be surprised if we couldn't wait to get the song over with. Man, take a look at all those. So, my exact thoughts here. So, I said, first off, I would love to know what the discussions were between Meth, Puff, and Harvey, because if their visions were for Meth to become more commercial, mainstream, and have less of a Wu-Tang sound, this failed miserably. The prequel, What's Happening, We Some Dogs, After Party, and even Act Right are the sole highlights here. Now, I didn't mention Act Right as a highlight, but let's keep it going. But it's not enough to save this album. There's a true lack of cohesion and missed opportunities. The quality is tremendously hit and miss, more misses. Lyrically, Meth is saying nothing new, going back and forth between inspired on some songs and just totally not caring on others, and the production is largely forgettable. Surprisingly enough, the album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart and ended up with a platinum certification. And as we're about to get into, he will return and right the ship 2 years later with album number 4, 421, the day after. I'm going with a somewhat generous 2-point star rating. The highlights here are worth checking out, but otherwise, don't bother to count out the prequel. Okay. And that's exactly what I said. And I'm pretty sure I still hold on to those thoughts today. Right? So next up, we come to the next and final album so far. That would be this one, the underrated, slept on 421, the day after, released on August 29th, 2006. So we're going to jump right into the highlights here. So we got the Scott Storch produced Is It Me? Meth says, my flow's no holds barred. Holy Jihad is the head nigga in charge. Meth back on the job. Yes, indeed. That one line sums up this Scott Storch produced piano lace banger. Meth was really feeling it on this one with and lyrics. 4 out of 5 for this one. Eric Sermon came through and produced this one, Problem, another 4 out of 5 song. Another banger right here, which was begging for a DMX guest appearance in my view. Again, Meth was feeling it here, and it comes across in the delivery and lyrics. Problem indeed. All right, then we got Somebody That Effed Up, produced by Havoc for Mobb Deep. Tell the label, give me something to spend. Every light got a price. You want a slice, but we ain't cutting you in. That probably was another shot at Def Jam. But okay. Another 4 out of 5 song, fast paced and a banger, of course. You could tell the response to his last album, To Kyle O, clearly lit a fire under Meth, and rightfully so. You know, if you can't get motivated to show and prove after an album like that, I don't know what to tell you. Continuing on, we got Fallout, produced by Kwame K1 Mill. Now, that is Kwame from Only You. Y'all remember Only You from back in 1990, you know, or did it come out in 89, but still stretching to 1990? I think it came out in 90, but yeah, that's who made this beat. He also made On Fire by Lloyd Banks. You know, most people still don't even know that, but okay. This joint was clearly for the radio and clubs, but it's so dope that it doesn't even matter. It simply has that vibe that just makes you bob your head and get up and bounce. Very good song, 4 out of 5. Then we get another 4 out of 5 highlight featuring ODB, and again, rest in peace to him. Dirty Meth, produced by Eric Sermon and Law Mathematics. My guess is that this was recorded prior to ODB's passing. Either way, I like this one. Makes you miss ODB that much more. All right, then we got the Genuine Assistant, Let's Ride, produced by Mr. Porter. Yes, this was a joint for the ladies, but it's smooth and dope. Mr. Porter provides a nice beat, perfect for the ride with the windows down, and Genuine was not out of place on the hook. And get this, he showed more chemistry with Meth than he did with Nas. I think, you know, y'all remember You Owe Me. I remember that one. So 4 out of 5 for this one. Then we got Safe,